Wimbledon have announced they're getting rid of line judges from next year's championships. So they will be moving over to the electronic line calling that the US Open and Australian Open have already started using in the last couple of years. Obviously, most of the ATP tour is going to be doing this next year, and the WTA is following in the same way as well. So it's not really a surprise. They're kind of just following the pattern of where most tournaments are going. But I guess some people are quite sad because it's a very traditional thing to have the line judges. I assume Ralph Lauren maybe are quite sad because they,
Yeah.
do the
Losing that, yeah.
uniforms and the outfits of the line judges.
Big.
So who's going to be wearing their stuff? But yeah, I
We
don't know
will.
what you
We'll
guys
happily
make
wear
of
it.
it.
Yes, please send it our way.
Yeah.
Imagine if we all turn up as line judges next year
Yeah.
at
We'll be
Wimbledon.
honorary line judges.
Yeah.
But yeah, Joel, are you sad about this, or can you understand Wimbledon's decision to embrace innovation?
I I can, and I think you look at Wimbledon and how they have innovated over the years. They've done it gracefully. They've done it well. It's very considered. But at the same time, I think Wimbledon is a traditional tournament. I think that's why so many fans go to see it. The tickets have been in high demand this year. We've been hearing, it's why players love to play it. And I think removing line umpires removes a tradition. It's been going for 147 years. If that's not a tradition, then I don't know what is. And regardless of if it's going to be more efficient and correct, I think removing a tradition that is a cornerstone and a heritage of your brand and your identity, regardless of how much consultation and consideration there has been, it's a very sad loss. And I think you think about kind of the people involved. This is their, might be their role, their job, their way of getting involved in Wimbledon, and you've removed that. You've removed that for a fairly big chunk of people. So I think I can understand it, but I think it's very sad. And I actually think if you did a survey and asked fans, and maybe we should do this on our Twitter and see
yeah.
what the debate is. But I would be surprised if people are in favor of this decision.
I feel the same. I was kind of gutted when I saw the news because it's such a core memory for me, seeing them with their lovely white caps, walking around, taking their place, with the blazers on, and even when they updated the uniforms, it was such a big deal. I think it just really adds a touch of class to the whole tournament. But again, and it is not just a spectacle; it is also a sporting event where, I mean, there are inaccuracies of line judges. We see it all the time. But at the same time, the flip side of that is that I love a challenge. And I think the British public love a challenge. It really does get the atmosphere going because it is entertainment as well as being, as I've said, a sporting contest, where a lot of money is on the line and everything. But at the same time, that's a special moment when you clap, you get to see it, one challenge remaining or no challenge remaining, and everyone is just the gasp goes out around centre court. So that is a shame because I would have liked there to be at least one more tournament where the people who have historically done it had the chance to do it again, have a send off. They could do a nice ceremony and invite all the people who've done it before to come. I think there are really nice ways of doing it. And I feel like this felt like they were trying to sort of brush it under the carpet by releasing the news and maybe a bit of a quiet period in the tennis season so that maybe it didn't necessarily get picked up as much. Because I think this is a real shame. But Joel, having said that, they will have to be on site in case the technology fails.
Great.
So
they're back up to the robots.
back up. They've got maybe the
Then they
outfit.
just can sit there and watch tennis and just wait until they're.
Well, they might be in the
called on.
crowds then. Maybe we should
You can have a
volunteer.
cup of tea,
Kim,
sit
I'm
back,
not gonna
eat some
lie.
cake.
If I'm one of these line umpires waiting around, I'm secretly going undercover into
Court
the
eight,
IT.
Ostapenko.
No, into the IT where this technology is
Oh, you're going to
housed.
pour a
And I'm
coffee
pulling
on the
plug.
system.
I'm
Yeah,
pulling the plug on the system. Be like, I want my job back.
yeah.
Well,
A
I mean,
union? Do they
there
have
are
a union?
there are other traditions I'd rather Wimbledon kept, such as like the strawberries and cream, the no sort of advertising, and that to me that's more important. But I agree with your perspectives as well. Another thing that is changing is that they're changing the time of the Wimbledon singles finals. So the men's and the ladies singles finals on the Saturday and Sunday previously started at 2 p.m. UK time. They're moving to 4 p.m. UK time. The justification being that this would fit better with an audience in America, sort of New York kind of time. They'd have a bigger audience there, so more viewers, more money, essentially. And the doubles finals, which previously were after the singles finals, they have a bit more certainty because they'll be on first. I quite like this change, actually. I think it makes sense. I'm not beholden to it being at 2 p.m. 4 p.m. is probably slightly better for a UK audience as well. What do you guys think?
I mean,
Chris?
I quite like the fact that they've done this because I really miss the mixed doubles final being, at the last match played. I think we did get a later mixed doubles final. Was it this year because of the scheduling changes? It meant that it wasn't played so early in the tournament. I think it's really nice to have sort of late night doubles, but at the same time, if these events aren't going to get, the same sort of that tradition's gone. I'm ready to embrace a new tradition. That's my short answer. And I think that more people watching tennis is always great because the numbers weren't fantastic for the US Open men's final. So I think TV audiences have to be considered because there's a lot of money these tournaments make. And TV audiences are where a lot of the advertising money does come from globally.
And they've got the Hill in New York, haven't they? So it probably
They
makes
do
it
now.
a bit
Nicole
better for people
Scherzinger was there this
going to
year,
the Hill.
apparently. Yeah.
She was singing there, yeah. She's on Broadway at the moment in Sunset Boulevard. But anyway, this isn't the musical theatre
No,
podcast.
it isn't. It isn't.
As much as we did mention The Sound of Music earlier. But
Yeah,
Joel,
it is
what
quite
do you
musical
think?
this week.
I guess the only kind of maybe practical concern is that like that could mean tennis goes later into the evening and you're bringing in, situations like using the roof more frequently. And yes, the roof is there to be used, but again, there's talk around, the fact that again, traditions, this is an outdoor tournament by default. And are you incurring on that if you move to a later time that maybe is more naturally going to go into an evening slot where that, like to say, maybe the roof does come into play. So yeah, I sort of understand it from that sort of audience viewership perspective. I think it is quite nice that the doubles teams, they will now have that certainty of and not feel just like the sort of after event after the final.
Yeah, whoever fancies staying, it's a bit like that sometimes, isn't it?
I guess it's a bit sad for people who are looking for resale because you're not maybe going to get that as much anymore because typically before,
that's a great point.
People would go for the men's final, leave, and then fans could get in on the resale for the doubles. That might not necessarily be a thing as much, so I can see why fans might not be as thrilled about it.
Well, I hope people still turn up for the doubles final prior and they don't just rock up.
That's very true. Very true.
We will see. Let's see come June, July next year. Let's think about slightly sooner in the schedule, though, because we've got 5 tournaments this week. The ATP are heading back to Europe, but the WTA are staying in Asia. We've got 2 WTA events in Ningbo and Japan. And then we've got the Almaty Open in Kazakhstan for the ATP, the Nordic Open in Stockholm, and the European Open as well.